Right, well, this is the last of my multi-part series on this creationist video that's annotated down there and in the description and such. You can see parts 1 and 2 annotated above me, right here. So make sure you see those before this one. And now that we have seen that, well, the creationists, scientists who are creationists are in a very small minority, as you saw in video 1. And all the books criticizing evolution that the video presented, many of them agree with evolution, just some of them not specifically with Darwin. Also, if you check the description and an annotation on the previous video, you'll note that Darwin Retired is actually the book Darwin Retried. I was just being dyslexic or something, and I missed that. So, I edited that. Thank you, Black Platypus, I think is his name. Alright, on to video 3!
As Science Digest reported over 30 years ago, scientists who utterly reject evolution may be one of our fastest growing controversial minorities. Many of the scientists refuting evolution hold impressive credentials in science.
Science Digest? Oh no! Not a peer-reviewed scientific journal. Wait. Just kidding. Science Digest is not a peer-reviewed scientific journal. Here's what our good friend Wikipedia says about Science Digest. In November 1980, the magazine was expanded to an 8 blah 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 blah. It was issued bi-monthly with a circulation of about 500,000 copies. At first, it tended to favor breathless cover titles and often turned to pseudo-scientific topics, including spontaneous human combustion and UFOs. But in reaction to brisk competition from the similar Discover and Omni magazines, it became a serious enough publication that it, and not the New York Times, first broke the discovery of great voids in the universe discovered by Margaret Geller and John Huckra at Harvard's Center for Astrophysics. The change did not seem to help, however, given the competition in the same subject areas by Discover and Science 80, and the magazine ceased publication in 1986. Now, the video mentions how this was in a publication over 30 years ago. However, Science Digest, 30 years ago, by the way, as you all should know, was 1980. However, before 1980 and before those times, Science Digest, like Wikipedia said, focused mainly on pseudoscientific topics. Pseudoscientific topics include creationism. In short, Science Digest was not a peer-reviewed scientific journal, and thus what it says on science should be taken with a... what's the phrase again? Should be taken with a caution pill. Does that sound... yeah? That's good? Okay, thanks.
One example of these type scientists is the late Dr. Arthur E. Wilder Smith, an honored scientist with an amazing 3 earned doctorates. He held many distinguished positions. A former evolutionist, Dr. Wilder Smith debated various leading scientists on the subject throughout the world. In his opinion, the evolution model did not fit as well with the established facts of science as did the creation model of intelligent design.
Well, Mr. Smith's opinion is wrong! Dr. Smith is a grade A idiotic ignoramus moron. And I'm not going to talk too long about him, because far better reviews of his character and his works can be seen in the description. I have a link to the Wikipedia article, which outlines how in many of his books he seems to show breathtaking ignorance of evolution, and a review which is on ncse.com. It is a review of his books, and it also talks about how he doesn't really seem to understand evolution. Mr. Smith, you're dumb. Yo. Okay, fine. Just because you want it so much, I'll read you a little bit of the ncse.com review of Mr. Smith's book. The analysis has 3 parts. A. Book must not present creationism and not present religious doctrine in disguise. The evaluation on criterion A, unacceptable because of its religious doctrine in disguise. B. Book must be scientifically accurate, present current scientific positions, and express modern views of the nature of science. Evaluation on criterion B, unacceptable because of its copious scientific errors. Mr. Smith is not a very good scientist. He should be stripped of that label and beaten with it. But he's already dead.
Dr. Wilder Smith says, the evolutionary model says that it is not necessary to assume the existence of anything besides matter and energy to produce life. That proposition is unscientific. We know perfectly well that if you leave matter to itself, it does not organize itself, in spite of all of the efforts in recent years to prove that it does.
Wrong, sir, wrong. According to Wikipedia, you got a degree in chemistry, eh? Yeah. Well, guess what? When matter organizes itself in that way that you said it doesn't, that's all chemistry. That's all abiogenesis is. Chemistry. Chemistry! There's a link in the description to a bit of a something from a textbook website that shows an animation of abiogenesis. It's from McGraw-Hill textbooks. Mr. Smith is not a reliable source for science. Science! Science!
Secular researcher Richard Milton, a British journalist and writer and author of Alternative Science, Challenging the Myths of the Scientific Establishment, says,
You gotta love alternative science and things like that. Here are a list of things that Mr. Milton advocates are real, according to Wikipedia. According to Milton, cold fusion is a real phenomenon. Furthermore, the standard solar model is flawed, and the sun may in fact be powered by a cold fusion process. Alternative medical concepts, such as bioenergy, homeopathy, and iridology, are scientifically valid. Paranormal phenomena, such as psychokinesis and remote viewing, are real. There's evidence for the I've never read this word before. Luminiferous ether. There's evidence for the luminiferous ether, but is ignored because it contradicts the theory of relativity. Milton's claims have been criticized as pseudoscience by philosophy professor Robert Carroll. Milton is not good to listen to if you want to learn about real science. Oh, and on a final note, Mr. Milton is not a scientist. He is a journalist and a writer.
Evolution's ascendancy in science, both in Britain and America, has been waning for several decades as its grip has weakened in successive areas.
No, it hasn't. And I will try to link in the description videos that show that it hasn't weakened in the following areas that he will suggest in a moment. Right about now.
Geology.
Wrong.
Paleontology.
Wrong.
Embryology.
Wrong.
Comparative anatomy.
Wrong.
Now even geneticists are beginning to have doubts.
Wrong.
It is only in mainstream molecular biology and zoology that Darwinism retains serious enthusiastic supporters.
Stop lying! Yes, we know that in many ways Darwin was wrong. However, Darwinian natural selection is not wrong.
As growing numbers of scientists begin to drift away from neo-Darwinist ideas, the revision of Darwinism at the public level is long overdue, and it is a process that I believe has already started.
Well, of course, evolution and Darwinism and natural selection and science and such are being revised at the public level. I mean, honestly, that's what science is. Science advances, and when it advances, it gets revised. Okay? Anyway, that concludes the movie. Video, whatever. I've shown it to be an incredibly dishonest piece of creationist propaganda that really is one-sided and tries to blow everything out of proportion. I hope you enjoyed the series. Peace out, home dogs.